They molded the tree. They molded the morphology of that tree in some
Yeah,
sense.
yeah. They channeled water to the
They
tree.
trained it. They trained it to grow roots.
Yes, that's
That's pretty.
exactly. That's the strange thing is a
That's like
figure of speech
husbandry.
like that is so natural, and that's the weird thing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And that's where it gets interesting because of course we traditionally we think of ourselves as the only kind of metaconscious beings on this planet, right? And we just assume, well, we got arms and legs, we got opposable thumbs, we got the Sistine Chapel, so we must be smarter than everything else. What do you think about that? I mean, is it possible that I think the biggest life form on planet Earth is some huge piece of fungus, isn't it? Have you heard about it?
Yeah, either that or a big tree, or a tree that has a similar phenomenon going on where it's like one organism underground.
Yeah. I mean, do you
Mm.
think it's? I mean, again, it's wild speculation, but I mean, I look at it and say, well,
Yeah,
why
it's
not?
absolutely possible. That's kind of what I mean.
Yeah, it looks like the
Yeah,
brain. They've got these massive neural
yeah,
networks, information
yeah.
superhighways. It's like why not?
Yeah,
I
that's
think it would be
kind of what I
crazy.
mean. Yeah, it's like
Yeah,
how would you ever really know? You wouldn't, but also
but it would be
like
crazier to suppose that it doesn't. I think.
Well, there's
well,
something in this, sorry, around in terms of the question of can we prove any of this? I think maybe if we're taking an empirical stance, probably not in terms of the kind of almost two different substances. If we're assuming that this empirical data is what's going to be the end kind of tick of this
yeah,
is the right stuff.
mhm,
But if we're taking a kind of more metaphysical approach, I think in the same way that the mandala is a common human image, outside of the psychedelic experience, whatever these common human images in the psyche are, a science of that can be made, and in some sense, it's the kind of predicate of something fundamental to do with what a mind is, and if we're talking about the fundamental stuff being a kind of proto mind of sorts, or like a sort of a seed of some kind, then however that combines again to make minds, it must also the imagery must somehow be in there as well, or like whatever the imagery is pertaining to must somehow be in that fundamental structure of sorts. That's kind of my interpretation of it. And then in that sense, we've got a metaphysical answer to not necessarily the mechanisms of something like a being that emerges from a city, but we've got a kind of hint at the structure of what that might look like.
yeah.